All right, well, let's hostify a little bit. There are some topics, and as always, we have questions and things we want to get to. But with time being tight, let's start with AEW Dynamite, because then we know how much time we have left. And this is another one of those episodes of Dynamite where as I'm watching it, I laugh. I, cover my eyes at times, but I laugh a lot. And I just wonder, what is Jim going to say about this? Because so much of it's undefendable.
To quote Thunderbolt Patterson, if I only had time. I mean, I don't, people say, well, you kind of gloss over the WWE a lot of times, but you go into detail on AEW. That's because, for one thing, you have to explain the inexplicable in the way that they try to explain it, and that takes a little time. And then secondly, you have to identify what's wrong with it, and that takes a lot more time. And then also, in some cases, I just don't know what to fucking say. Should we start at the beginning?
Much like their commentators. You have no idea what to say. Oh, my God.
And again, Sockface continues to... I think did he try to call Private Potty at one point?
There were several points again where he lost control of his mouth and he couldn't speak coherently.
You know what Mama Cornette would say?
I have no idea.
His tongue got lopped over his eye teeth and he couldn't see what he was saying.
There's an expression you don't hear too often nowadays.
You don't hear it as much as you used to. But anyway, so they started out with the spooky cold open of the Moxley bunch. We got to come up with a name for that group because they're not the Blackpool gangbangers anymore, or whatever the fuck are they?
Apparently, he has filed for a trademark because Tony, being a nice guy and doing something that WWE would never do is letting the wrestlers trademark their own things and then bring them in. Moxley has trademarked Death Riders.
Oh, well, that's it.
To which I responded, the full name is Ratings Death Riders.
What? That makes sense. Maybe he's a big Ghost Rider fan. Or, Riders on the Storm or Ghost Riders in the Sky, Death Rider. It sounds so cool.
Is Death Jitsu the official fighting form of Death Riders?
Yes, and they will sponsor the pickup truck. You're going to see Death Jitsu wrapped around the side of the pickup truck. Oh, well.
Do your brakes and shocks have death? I'll tell you where to send it. When's he going to start doing commercials?
Commercials for death? I mean, what is he going to... Hey, he has a hard enough time selling wrestling tickets. He might as well sell people on the popularity of death. Folks, death is for you. That's why we ride all over the country telling you about it. But they had the cold open with last week or whatever, and then they went to the arena, and they're in Cleveland, Ohio. And my God, the poor people of Cleveland have put up with enough abuse already, but here came to the ring with no music, not even his music, not even anything to make this motherfucker exciting.
Well, he cut off the Claudio video when Claudio was ranting, apparently the most fearless guy there is the fucking cameraman. He's following these guys everywhere with no problem. But there was a video, Claudio was yelling at the camera, and all of a sudden you hear, "Cut that off, it's enough!" And you're like, who the hell's that? We never hear that voice.
Well, yeah, and then there's a reason why we're about to find out. But yeah, here comes the company mascot, little puppy pockets, Orange Cassidy, to the ring with no music, no charisma, no talent. He's had all he can stands, and he can't stands no more. And he gets in the ring and starts cutting a live promo. And he said he doesn't do this normally, talking about speaking. I wish he wouldn't do it at all. He had a good streak going there. But after last week, when he watched his best friend's neck, that's Muffin Top Taylor, for those of you who mercifully missed that. My best friend's neck got crushed by a steel chair. And I was surrounded by the future of AEW, all the young wrestling stars, and they have no idea of the danger that they're in. So now this fucking moron that nobody can take seriously to begin with and looks like he couldn't whip cream with an outboard motor is standing there saying that I'm the only one that realizes how dangerous. He's got to come out and put Moxley over as being a badass. I'm the only one who realizes how dangerous Moxley is to the ratings. But these other guys, they got no idea of the danger they're in. So I know what I need to do. If we don't stop Moxley, there will be no future of AEW. And then he actually said, without AEW, I don't exist. I owe everything to... Yes, because nobody else would have ever put you on fucking television. You goddamn sad-looking son of a bitch. He's just said he's a sorry-looking. You know, I actually got sued for saying that one time.
What?
Because I got in the ring in Baton Rouge, Louisiana to introduce the Midnight Express in 1984. And I looked at the people. I said, you got to be the sorriest looking bunch of people I've ever seen in my life. And then on the way back to the locker room, that's when that guy tried a little dive over the fucking guardrail and tried to punch me, and I ducked it and whacked him with the racket. And then Dundee, watching from the back, who was the booker, not wrestling at the time, he got on him but punched the guy in the face about 5 times. And when I was trying to hit him again, I drew back and I hit the cop in the head. And the guy ended up suing. In the newspaper article, when asked why that, he made a run for her, he did this, he said, well, he called us all sad. Sad, sorry, whatever. He called us all sad. A very inflammatory remark in those days.
You better watch out. Orange Cassidy may come after you.
Yeah, well, you're a sad son of a bitch. And I'll tell you, I'm sorry, little fella. I don't pick on people that much smaller than me. So, but anyway, without AEW, he doesn't exist. So he needs to stop this. He needs to cut the head off the snake. Talking about Moxley. And he's going to do it alone. He doesn't want these other guys to help him. He's going to do it alone. And then this fucking bunch of mayhem-causing rabble-rousers in this used pickup truck have been beating the shit out of the entire roster. And this little fucking scrawny, pencil-necked son of a bitch, I'll just cut this fucking... I challenge you for an AEW World Title match, pal. And he finished it up and said, because I'm Orange Cassidy and I still don't need a catchphrase. Can you imagine, Brian, a regular WWE viewer, of which there are millions, as we're aware, but I'll turn on this other wrestling program. I heard, Bobby Lashley, Shelton Benjamin, I like them. I'll turn on this program, and this is what they fucking see. And they're horse laughing, and that's the end of that experiment.
Could you imagine if you had turned on WWF TV in 1994 and Doink the Clown came out and says, I don't normally do this, but without WWE, I'm nothing. I'll do it myself.
No, actually, that's not really an apt comparison because they use Doink on top.
It's not an apt comparison, too, because that was only a couple of years into Doink. Orange Cassidy, this is 5 years now. And nothing is moving up. And they're just doubling down on everyone that drove everything down. There are little glimmers of hope, but they're doubling down, tripling down on everything that has caused the free fall in fan enthusiasm. It's not just because WWE's hot. It's because AEW is putting on a stale product. No matter how many times you see a flip that you like, it doesn't change that it's a stale product. So now Orange Cassidy is getting into the main event. I told you years ago, I said, Tony's going to find a way to get the world title on Orange Cassidy. I'm not saying this is it, but this is the road to it. And again, when you need to improve your company, And you are bringing people with size. If you walk into a restaurant, you see a Shelton Benjamin, let alone a Bobby Lashley or an MVP, you're like, man, that's a big motherfucker. Jesus.
Yeah,
I don't want to
Rick Ross.
I don't want to fight this guy. This is a big, scary guy. You see Orange Cassidy, like, I could take him.
And you could.
And that's the problem. So, I mean, he's out here. He's going to lead this. Meanwhile, again, MVP Lashley and Shelton, why don't they do something next week to end all this where Tony just says, I'll pay you guys, clean up my dressing room.
Well, yeah, and we're going to get there at the end of this program, but I mean, that's pretty obvious. Just if you're not going to see the Moxley minions cross-pollinating with MVP, Shelton, and Lashley, because that wouldn't work out very well. And they're doing the whole Hurt Business thing right. It's amazing. This again has become a schizophrenic program where you have this childish indie nonsense over, a guy that fucking plays pocket pool is going to get revenge for his friend Muffin Top. And nobody gives a fuck about these people except their own little indie bubble.
But there's the other problem right there. When you hear the audience reaction, or in a lot of cases, in most cases on this show, this week and most weeks, the lack of reaction, what does that tell you? They're not even that enthusiastic about it.
And at the same time, they've established a brand new top heel group. It's so badass that the people are cheering them already. They just got there. It's because they're doing wrestling, grown men doing wrestling angles that, imagine this, look somewhat convincing.
Well, the other thing, too, is who's the baby face in AEW that isn't a sappy baby face? Like, when you really think about it, like, who have they put out there as the baby face side against Moxley? Not counting the Bucks who ran away, but Darby.
Dork Order,
Orange Cassidy, Daniel Garcia. How many of those guys have done a promo about how grateful they are to be there, how much they love it there, how they're mad at MJF or other people for not loving it enough there? Like, this is the problem. That's not the future of the company. And they're acting like this is the future of the company.
You forgot about Action Andretti.
Well, you know what? He at least hasn't done that promo. They don't give him promo time.
Yeah, he never gets to talk at all.
But no, seriously, right? Every single one of them, you want to get behind him, and it just turns into this sappy promo that's as cheesy as like a babyface talking to kids in the early 80s. Like, it's just cheesy, and it doesn't work. It makes people it makes them more friendly and less someone you want to cheer.
Well, yes, and also, let's be honest, even if they had material written by Roy Shire himself, they're not gonna, they're kids that nobody cares about because they've been interchangeable and they've done the same shit over and over for the last however many years. And in one of these brawls they had, one of the Dork Order guys, is that Reynolds? Alex Reynolds. He's the one with the long hair, right? And he had his ribs taped up.
Yeah.
I said, what the fuck? When he first came in and somebody grabbed him and dropped him on the railing crotch first, I said, who is that chick in a tube top? I was like, who is that? Just came out of nowhere. It looked like a girl in a tube top. Alex Reynolds with his fucking rib tape on. And it's just these guys have been job guys and or willy-nilly, wishy-washy, interchangeable indie wrestlers, and nobody's produced them out of it, and nobody's booked them out of it. And now that's what's running in to fucking save the company. Again, Shelton and Lashley could, just step in and easily take care of the situation instead of these fucking dozen guys. Anyway, moving on. The long-awaited showdown between Adam Cole and Buddy Matthews, where Buddy Matthews last week said, I'm going to show everybody you're fragile. Or fragile, whichever way you pronounce that. And Visually, this was kind of ridiculous. Buddy looks like he's got 100 pounds on Adam Cole. This looked like the paper boy had, jumped into the fucking ring against goddamn Lex Luger. And
with a fake tan. If the paperboy got a really, really bad orange fake tan, that's what
well, that's another part of the problem is that we've said before, if Adam had a tan, maybe he'd look a little more toned. But they gave him some kind of, what did they use? Pam spray? That fucking cooking spray? Between the
Bronzer.
fake spray. Well, it wasn't bronze. It was fucking between the fake spray tan and the flabby thighs. He looked like a Simpsons character. It was just, I don't know what's happened. And is there some way that he cannot wrestle in swim trunks and maybe long tights or goddamn something?
Wetsuit. He loves the ocean. A wetsuit.
Anything.
He dreamt of being an astronaut.
Something a little more baggy. Could he, I don't know. But they had a match, and it was like if you overlooked, Adam can work if you overlook what he's become physically and what Buddy Matthews looks like. But the break spot was Adam took a bump to the floor and he's just leaning on the apron and he's ignoring where Buddy is until Buddy runs down the apron and throws a kick and missed him by a fucking foot. If you go back on the slow-mo, if you DVR'd it, and you could tell it missed, and Adam sold it like he'd been shot with a cannon, and down he went and they went to the break.
Did you notice that the fans were cheering Buddy? Even though
Yes.
Adam Cole's been brought in and they've tried to reestablish him now as a babyface again, they were all cheering for Buddy, and I think a lot of it was because of the appearance. When you see them in there together, it's ridiculous.
Well, and also they cheered Adam coming back because he returned from a long absence from an injury. That always gets you cheered unless you're, a dastardly heel, which he wasn't. But then now that they've heard the explanation that he's explained for why all these things went on a year ago, that it doesn't make any sense, I think they've all rolled their eyes, haven't they?
Yeah.
So anyway.
It's like I said to you, I think the way he was booked from the moment he got there, it began with the MJF stuff. I didn't like it, but it got over with those fans. And then that all went haywire. And then he's been a babyface and a heel and back to a babyface 3 times, like without having a match. Like it happened over a couple of years. And again, the appearance thing, it's part of the story. I hate to say it, but it is.
Well, and then again, Buddy Matthews, look at the way he looks. And we talked about he's the one in the House of Black that can work. But they come back from the break. Immediately, Buddy gives Cole a superplex, and they just rolled through, and Adam Cole just picked Buddy up and suplexed him after being superplexed. And then Buddy's working on Adam's bad ankle. And so he goes to the floor, and the doctor just comes up and starts checking the leg, and the referee is there letting the doctor check the leg and telling Buddy Matthews, get back. The doctor is checking the leg while Adam Cole is on the floor. Didn't that used to be a count out?
Yes.
When you got thrown from the ring or fell from the ring and could not get back in by the count of 10, that's a count out. They never said that the doctor is allowed. If the doctor stands up and says, oh, now wait a minute. Unlike all the phony shit you've been looking at, this guy's really hurt now, so we're stopping everything until then fucking count him the fuck out. If the doctor needs to look at a motherfucker, chances are he's not going to be back in the ring by the 10 count. Count his ass out.
But the other part of the problem is psychologically, I don't think any of this left the audience wanting to see Adam Cole come back and win. I think everyone kind of wanted Buddy to win.
They felt sorry for him. If anything, like, can you get that poor little thing out of there before he gets hurt?
But then when they do an injury angle in the middle of the match,
yeah,
then it becomes even more offensive when he comes back and kicks out of everything and somehow wins.
Well, yeah, because the fans did the referee's count for him. They counted out loud to 10. You heard them, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're doing it and still the referee didn't pick up on it.
They counted out the baby face.
Yes. And then the doctor starts helping Adam Cole to the back, and Adam's like, "Oh, I'll hobble to the back with you." And Buddy Microphone.
Buddy Microphone. That could be his new gimmick. Maybe.
Hey, you know what? We said he needs a better fucking gimmick, so there's Buddy Microphone. Buddy Matthews got on the microphone and goaded him coming back and called him a little bitch, which he was, because he's being helped out limping from this match that Buddy should have won already by count out. But now that he's goading him and calls him a little bitch, then Adam limps back and the doctor says okay. And then they start going back and forth, and Buddy tries to get Adam Cole to throw the towel in, and Adam throws it at Buddy and kicks him 5 or 6 times, and knee lifts him and gets a 2 count. And then Buddy gets a buckle bomb and a curb stomp and gets a 1 count on this guy that was being carried out by the fucking doctor a couple minutes ago. And then Adam Cole just, oh, fuck it, he's mad now. Hits him with a Panama Sunrise. Buddy falls to the floor. Gives him a Panama Sunrise on the floor, which looks like it hurts the fucking giver more than the givee, doesn't it?
Yes, very much so.
And then he rolled him back in the ring and hit him with a knee to the back of the head. 1, 2, 3. So after all that, not only was it a rotten finish, but they just beat him flat. And as I said, the match was okay when they were working, if you accept the visual ridiculousness or ridiculosity of it. But then, the doctor thing and the whole thing and the blah, blah, blah. And then he beats Buddy flat. Then he gets on the microphone, Adam does, and says, "Buddy, you reminded me of who the real Adam Cole is. Thank you." And they shake hands. Why was the goddamn...
It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, the heel was like, well, finally, I've been recognized for my good works.
This is the second member of the House of Black to have a weird babyface turn.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. They shake hands, and the lights go out. And when the lights come back on, Adam Cole is standing there shaking hands with Malachi Black, and Buddy is watching them. So somehow Adam Cole didn't realize that a motherfucker let go of his hand in the dark. And what the... He couldn't tell the guy let go of his hand because the lights went out. And he's surprised, and Malachi Black looks at him, and Adam Cole rolls out and walks off.
He also has respect for Adam Cole. Again, the House of Black, Darby, Brody King, who had beaten the shit out of Darby apparently for years, inside and outside the ring, like they've done angles and stuff, like at record stores. He was concerned about Darby's well-being. And that he would die if he went to the mountain. And here, the heel who was getting cheered the entire match to the point where the fans counted out the babyface while the doctors were checking on him. He did it just to earn, or not even to earn, just to prove that he has respect already for Adam Cole. Explain this. You can't, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
How long did you write? I can't speak. Did you write down how long the match went? How long did it go?
Well, we are 30 minutes into the show, and all we've seen so far is the interview with the mascot and this match. So yeah, lengthy.
But you see, there it is again. Adam Cole, like I said with Orange Cassidy, the "can I take him" test. You look at Adam Cole and you're like, how come Buddy Matthews is having such a hard time with this guy? I'd kill him. It's the same thing. Buddy Matthews looks like he would fit in with the Lashleys, with the Shelton Benjamins, with the main eventers, with the people who look like wrestlers. Not the, again, just start a division.
And you know, the bad thing about Buddy is he can work too rather than just looking good.
Start a division for just 160-pound men. Do it. Just put them all in one division.
Wait a minute. Now, hold on. Drop that last qualifier. Just say started the division for 160-pounders. Because, well, then again, you're gonna stand Conor McGregor next to Adam Cole and go, fuck.
That's true. That's true. How about wrestlers that go to the gym versus wrestlers that don't?
Well, and we're not done actually here now. You know, with this whole angle, because once they went to the break and they went back to the locker room where there's Adam Cole, Matt Taven, Mike Bennett, and Roderick Strong, 4 sterling white meat baby faces. And Adam Cole, because what have we said about Adam Cole primarily from day one, that his strongest point is that he can cut a convincing promo, that he has inflection and he has delivery. And you technically tend to believe that Adam Cole means every word that he's saying here with this delivery, and that means that you have to think that Adam Cole is the biggest bullshit artist in the world, because what he's saying makes no sense. He's still trying to make MJF the heel. That's why we had to fucking strike first, and we had to be this, because I wasn't gonna sit around and let MJF do to me what he did to everybody else. Does that explain why when Adam Cole was in a scooter and a walking boot from a severe ankle break, that Roddy and Taven and Bennett were making him do their yard work? How does that fit into this whole goddamn thing? What?
I forgot about that.
Yeah, see, that's why none of this.
Where's Wardlow? Where's Wardlow?
Where's Wardlow? And he even mentioned his name. He said, I'm not going to let MJF do to me what he did to Wardlow. Well, then why did you find Wardlow and say, hey, you're the last motherfucker to beat this guy? Why don't you come in here instead of these 3 wombats I've got behind me? Who made me do yard work when I was in a walking boot and a fucking serious injury? And they're out there making me sweat fucking cutting the goddamn grass. Because of why? We never figured out why. Because they were bros. He was bro chachos with MJF. Well, if they were making him if MJF and Adam Cole were a unit of friends and bro chachos in this tag team, but Adam Cole was secretly working with Roderick Strong and Matt Taven and Mike Bennett to lull MJF into a false sense of security and strike like they did, then if MJF was already bro-chachos with Adam Cole, why did they have to go over and above to prove to MJF that Adam Cole was not like Roddy and Taven and Bennett by having Roddy and Taven and Bennett mistreat Adam Cole? What the flying fuck?
Sometimes there are no answers.
So speaking of no answers, here came Don Fallis, the leader of the Fallis family, and he brought out, the bald-headed geek. Remember those Jimmy Valiant promos from 1986? Paul Jones, you're going to be a bald-headed geek, baby. Woo, mercy. He brought out bald-headed Kyle Felcher.
Do you think if that was done today, the bald-headed community would be protesting against AEW?
No, I don't think there would be protests. I just think that nobody gives a shit anymore because all these dimwits fucking shave their heads on purpose. So, they somehow have gotten the idea because 3 people in the world looked bald, Steve Austin being one of them. Now every wrestler has to be bald. I saw a bald woman on TV the other day. And I think it was on purpose. I'm not saying she'd been through treatments or something. I'm thinking this was a choice she made, and somebody in her family should have intervened.
Maybe she joined the Nightmare Collective.
No, that girl's hair's had time to grow back. It's been 3 years since we've seen her.
Mel.
You know, I used to think that was the Bee Gees song. Bald-headed woman to me. See, the AM radio back in those days, it wasn't like the Raycons.
But if you stop and think about it, why would they be singing this song?
Well, exactly. That's why I wondered about them for so long.
Meanwhile, they're covered in hair.
Yeah, see, that's why I figured maybe it's some kind of goddamn deal they've got. They're the ones that want the hair, and if you don't have hair, they're not going to be there, or whatever the case. So
where were we going?
We're talking about Kyle Felcher being bald-headed, and they called out Will Ospreay, and Will Ospreay didn't come out. So Kyle started talking again, and suddenly music played, and out came the announcers identified him as Mark Davis. And nobody in that building knew who the fuck this was. And Tony Schiavone had, well, listen to the ovation for the return of Mark Davis. Nobody had, they were playing music. That was the ovation. The fans were going, huh? And he was dressed like he had been changing his oil on a Sunday afternoon in his driveway. And somebody said, hey, go down to the wrestling show. And Mark Davis is upset at what Kyle did. And I just wrote, this is insane. I'm watching a fucking wrestler have an argument with some stagehand at this point. I mean, and, you know, Mark said, we used to have an empire. The fuck? That was the name of your team. How about if you and me, Brian, go as the 12-inch dicks, does that mean we've got 12-inch dicks, or is that just what we decided to call ourselves?
That means you're riding my coattails. That's what
hey! I'll tell you what.
Wait, where's the we in this conversation?
We wouldn't
White
have
man.
We wouldn't have a total of 24 inches without my 3.5. So anyway, Kyle told Davis that you'll always have a spot in the family, but you better make your decision pretty quick and make it right. And Mark Davis said, we had a whole empire, not just a family, and you destroyed it. And he walked off away. And Mark Davis versus Kyle Felcher. I don't know if WrestleMania is big enough for that one. Do you?
You know, it was disappointing on two ends. It was disappointing. The fans had no idea who he was or what any of this was about. Everything with Kyle Felcher, since Mark Davis got hurt, has been to get him away from the whole Aussie Open thing. He dyed his hair. They put him with Callis. Got a bunch of high-profile losses on TV. Then they started doing the thing with him and Ospreay. It's a few months now. They even involved MJF in it at one point. So now they're bringing back Mark Davis. Now, none of those fans know who he is. And on the other side of the coin, if you're a fan of Aussie Open, this is the Aussie Open breakup. This was horrible from both ends of it.
From both ends.
Right? Think about it.
Anyway,
if you're a fan of these guys and you've been watching them in New Japan or Australia, wherever for years, this was the big breakup.
Well, those 17 people are going to be fucking pissed off, I'll tell you that. But no, again, they're in a building, they played music and put up the United Empire logo, and they have Mark Davis walk out, again, looking like some guy just wandered in. He'd been to Popeyes down the street, and they wouldn't let him walk up to the drive-thru. But somebody said, here's a free wrestling ticket. What are the people supposed to do when they can't tell who the fuck this is, that it's even a wrestler, and it's a guy that looks like they've never seen him before?
You know what he should have done? He should have done that old thing where he comes out and he says, it's me, I'm back, Joe Stevens, and get a reaction. I lied, I'm Mark Davis. See? None of you even know who I am.
You know what? They used to do that back in the Tennessee territory in the 60s when they would unmask a fucking masked wrestler. They just give us some gimmick name. When they I've got it in my notes somewhere, but I can't. But when they unmasked the Mummy, in Louisville. They gave his name as some fucking bullshit, some guy I've never heard from, or never heard from. No, we broke up, and I've never heard again. No, I never heard. He
was a great pen pal as the Mummy, and then once he lost that.
But anyway, nevertheless, that was that. So I hate to see the United Empire come to this, because they were united and an empire, and now they're ununited, and they're very unempirical. So,
I guess that means Ospreay, by the way, is a little bit of a sabbatical in England. Is that the only way to take it?
Well, I don't know. Maybe he couldn't drive. He couldn't get to the fucking building. He had nobody to drive him because he got no driver's license. We established that. Remember, he said he'd never driven in the United States before. That was a while back.
That was when they cut his tires for his car.
Yeah, when he was about to attempt to drive to the hotel. They found his tires were cut, and they made the whole spot about Bar Brady. I said, have you ever driven in the United States? No. Where were we going from here? Is there more of this?
You know what? We were going to go, and we were going to talk about more of this. But, sometimes in the middle of these shows, Jim, sometimes you just need a break from the action. Sometimes you need something else. Sometimes you may want to go and just do some shopping. Or maybe you want to load up some items for your business and sell them to other people. There are so many options and so many things to do. All of them will probably be better than AEW's merch operation. But
you finally struck on something I can run with there.
I found something.
After playing whack-a-mole with every goddamn thing you could. I'll tell you what they ought to be doing over there at AEW, selling their merchandise. They ought to have Shopify taking care of it for them. That's what they ought to be doing because, as we all know, folks, nobody does selling better than Shopify. They're the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And they also have a not-so-secret secret. As a matter of fact, as I remember from an interview one time from a wrestler, he said, it's a very well-known secret. And this is a well-known secret, too. ShopPay boosts conversions up to 50%. So, boy, I'll tell you, if your conversion needs a boost or a leg up, 50%. It's gonna be just that quick. Does it mean that they're 50% quicker or 50% bigger? Or no, they're just 50% better. And way less carts go abandoned with Shopify, and way more of the sales, the money, the dinero, the moolah, way more of that goes right in your pocket, where you can shake hands with Malachi Black, who has his hand in everything.
But it won't be his hand. It will be someone else's hand.
Well, that's only when you draw it out of your pocket. If you're into growing your business, folks, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling. So if it's on the web, in the store, in their feed, out on the street, Shopify employs a troop of people that just go up to people at random on the street, especially in Times Square, and say, hey.
No, they don't know.
You want to buy some of Hotchkiss's goods?
They certainly don't say that. No one says that.
I've got some of Aunt Emily's merchandise right here, and they will make these people buy something so they can walk past. So right there, there's more money in your pocket.
Right there, that's not happening in Times Square. That's not the way Shopify does business. They do business for you, with you, to help you.
Yes.
Let's talk about that.
It's all about making you money. That's why other people have money and you want it, and they're going to get it for you. So it doesn't matter what you're selling. You could be selling freezers to Eskimos or pussy on a troop train. It doesn't matter. One way or the other, they'll make people buy it with Shopify. Because businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. It's no secret. Businesses that want to grow with Shopify. They sell and they grow. They're like the blob of online commerce. All they do is, instead of eat and grow, they just sell and grow. Every time they sell, they grow. Sooner or later, they roll over a small town in Kansas and absorb it.
That's not the way it works. They are there to help you. They can work with you. Have you ever seen the Blob in person?
No, you mean the stage play?
No, they have It's like a canister with like just this goo inside to say, here's the actual blob from the movie The Blob. And it's just a bunch of crap in a fucking canister.
Well, and you expected it to be, what, spam?
Not as good as Shopify.
Not as good as Shopify. Folks, upgrade your business. Get the same checkout that all of the big boys use. Sign up for your $1 a month trial period at shopify.com/JCE. And that JCE, of course, is in lowercase. Shopify.com/JCE. And you're going to get a $1 a month trial period so that you can see that Shopify will collect and or extort all kinds of money from the shopping public in order to keep you happy and farting through silk.
No extortion involved or necessary. Shopify's there to help you.
Well, only if they push people.
No,
if you push them.
No. Push may not come to shove when it comes to legal matters. Shopify's there to legally help you. I don't know why we have to talk about the legalities of this.
Well, you know what?
They're there for you.
To Shopify. So give Shopify a big push and they'll push you right to the bank.
If you have products you need to sell, you need Shopify to work with you to sell them. How can they get hooked up with this, Jim?
Shopify.com/JCE in the lowercase area of the keyboard will get you the $1 a month trial period where you get to go like that.
Well, that's right, Jim. That's the kind of deal you can get with Shopify. We encourage everyone to check that out. And that was some slick selling on your part. I don't know how much slick selling there was on Dynamite. Let's get back to Dynamite.
Well, there wasn't a lot of selling coming up because it was time for Moxley's clown car to pull up and come to the ring through. They showed him before the break coming out of a room in the arena and then showed him walking into the arena on the other side of the break. But they just can't be brought to associate with the riffraff over there in the locker room.
They've now established he has a locker room of his own. He still chooses to walk through the arena.
And, okay, here comes Moxley, and he's trying to do something with that decrepit physical appearance of his. And Claudio's a fucking giant. And old Pac, well, he's just ripped and shredded. And Marina Schaefer, she's the toughest one of the bunch. And then here comes Yuta. He looks like, this fucking street gang brought their weed dealer with them. Well, look at it. What? It's like, at least here's this guy. Look, okay, he can kick somebody's ass. And that guy's fucking huge. And that guy's jacked up. And look, she's a badass from the jiu-jitsu world. And there's...
Yeah, we told Ronnie he can come along for the ride.
Yeah, Ronnie, did you bring the stuff? Maybe it's Weeder Yuta. But then again...
Weed dealer Yuta.
Here we go. Even if this whole deal already wasn't confusing and the whole 9 yards with it, what in the fuck is Moxley talking about in his audition reel for the indie movies, the whole 9 yards? How can anybody take him seriously as the world champion or as a badass if he's either wrestling or talking about the biggest joke wrestler on a roster of jokey wrestlers? Think about it. Here's their world champion, and he's beating everybody up on the fucking roster, and he's got this whole group with him, and he's cutting a promo about Orange fucking Cassidy. And then, after he does the promo where he's ranting and raving in the circles that he talks in about our little puppy Pockets, you didn't challenge me, I challenged you, which I think he did last week. But then suddenly they grab Wheeler, their boy Wheeler, and they jerk him down and they put a chair around his neck and they're going to fucking break his neck. But then Pockets slides in and tackles Moxley and they all jump him and they let Wheeler go and he gets up and starts kicking Pockets.
Why did Pockets come to save Yuta?
Because
Like,
they're
why was that the moment that would have triggered him for them to beat up
because
one of their own?
they all used to be friends, and they just know that maybe one of these days one of their friends will see the light, and I don't fucking know. And then here comes the Dork Order in, and the heels no-sold him and just beat him up. And that's where I mentioned that Reynolds guy with his ribs taped up, looked like a girl in a tube top. And they got pockets down, and they were about to break his neck. When here comes Darby from the ceiling, I'm not ribbing. And he drops dead, but at least the fans woke up there, because until this point, it was like, oh, fucking come on. But when they see Darby, okay, somebody's finally over. And boom. And they start cheering, but now he's hooked to the thing. And even Shivani references, well, so-and-so has to come over to help Darby get disconnected. I'm like, what the fuck? And then here comes Darby's beating up Claudio, and some more job guys come out. There's Garcia, there's Private Party. And everybody goes over the rail and fights into the arena, except Private Party stays in the ring. And then the Buckaroos music starts playing because they're scheduled to face Private Party, so they're coming into the arena down the entranceway while these other guys have gotten up in the stands, and you just see them just kind of put their arm on each other's shoulders and just walk out instead of continuing to fight. And now they're ready for the World Tag Title match. Brian, your thoughts?
Is there a difference between they fought off and they fought out?
No, they fought out and fought off would technically mean the same thing, but the word fight is too strenuous a word for what they were doing here. They fought.
I mean, there's so much to say about this. The stomps from Wheeler Yuta when he was heel again, after Orange Cassidy foolishly ran in there, however many people on one, to save Wheeler Yuta. That was something. Maybe I'm alone on this, but I don't care how safe it is. If your company has a partnership with Dr. Martha Hart, I'm not doing anyone dropping from the ceiling. And you know, one of the reasons it worked so well for Sting in the loosey-goosey 90s was because he was able to unhook himself and get to the action. Maybe he shouldn't have. Maybe it should have been a technician to help him with that. And if that's what Darby has to do, then he shouldn't be dropping from the ceiling if he needs to be in a brawl.
Exactly.
And then the whole Moxley thing, nothing is explained. Still, nothing's explained. They're with Moxley, his gang, because he built AEW with his own hands. And he doesn't like what it's become while he's been there the entire time. And if you think this is bad now, wait until the Bucks return with Kenny to be the heroes to stop Moxley.
Oh, well, but now, wait a minute. They must have scratched that, because according to what I just saw just coming up here shortly in this program, they're going in the opposite direction.
Well, as you said, the Moxley-Darby angle ended, but the next match began instantly as all of this was wrapping up.
Well, yes, because you can't grieve forever. But now it was 9 o'clock. Time to get the party started. Private Party versus the Hardley Boys for the World Tag Team title. And we'll talk about the ratings shortly, but boy, they give these guys every week. They give them some important quarter that they can fuck up. And I mean, this match, again, you can't seriously critique it as a wrestling match. The cartwheeling and cheerleading began in earnest immediately. They've got their handpicked referee, the desiccated corpse himself, Rick Knox. So there's going to be no tags. There's going to be no sense of logic or order or credibility. They managed to work a spot where the baby faces look like complete idiots, where one of the heels ducked and one of Private Party hit his own partner with the ring bell. And that was the way that the guy got color. And of course, it looked like he tried to pop a pimple. That's how much blood he had. But still, so the baby faces are busting each other open now. Then they drug one member of Private Party to the stage and left him there so that Cody could come out and give him what may be the fakest tombstone piledriver I've ever seen on the stage. Would you call that a tombstone piledriver, Brian, or would you call it picking somebody up and gently bending to your knees to let them down?
Yeah, Okada just kind of went down. He got less air than Gino Moore doing a big splash. He just didn't even leave the ground. He just went right down very gingerly.
Yes.
To Tombstone Piledriver, the babyface, to make sure he can... I mean, the Tombstone Piledriver on the entrance stage did nothing to stop the babyface. But anyway.
Well, no, because he was up and back in the ring a couple minutes later. But the point is, we're not saying break the guy's neck. We're saying if you can't do something that looks good and professional, then just don't fucking do it. And this guy can't do anything that looks good or professional. So then he just left. Cody just left again. And they beat up the other Private Party fellow forever. 2-on-1 for minutes at a time in front of the most useless referee in the history of wrestling. And then the other Private Party came back that had been Tombstone Piledrived. And they had a continuous four-way until they hit a double team move on little Nicky, the younger brother, and covered him 1, 2, 3.
Big pop. Fans happy.
Yeah, well, the fans love the idea of the Buckaroos not being the champions anymore. And then as the people popped and Private Parties got the belts, the Buckaroos jerked the belts away, and then they look at each other, and then they handed them back to them and patted them on the shoulder and left.
See, babyface turn.
And then they're about to run out of the goddamn building with their tails between their legs like cowards. But in the meantime, this match would have gotten everybody involved in it expelled from wrestling school. And it took 20 minutes. The right result, but boy, it was brutal to get there.
I mean, the right result, we'll see who Private Party has to work with going forward. But definitely needs some kind of change in that tag team division, and you definitely need the Bucks. I mean, how many times have the Bucks had to go away at this point? And they have to do it again?
See, they go away well. The part that they can't master is the coming back.
Is the groan from the audience when the opening notes of their music hits again in a couple months. Yeah, that's what they can't avoid.
Well, but we're going to get to that. We need to keep chronologically. So we're going to get to their exit from the building in a minute. But then there was the segment that I don't know why they didn't do this in the back, because they had these three dimwits just come out and stand there in front of the people with their backs to the people. But Jericho, Big Bill, and Brian Keith did a promo in the fashion they've been doing it. And at the top of it, I jotted down real quick, how did he convince anybody to let him do this bullshit on television? I'm just talking about the overall gimmick. I'm talking about the tone in his voice that he never had before, and the fact that he's dragging Big Bill down with him. And I mean, Brian Keith's lucky to be there. Everybody obviously see that. But just without even talking about the content, the delivery, the goofy delivery. This hasn't gotten any heat per se. This hasn't increased ratings. This hasn't increased buy rates. This hasn't increased ticket sales. This hasn't increased interest. It's Jericho doing another thing that Jericho does to just annoy people and stay on television. Am I mischaracterizing the cheesiness of this whole persona that he's adopted?
Well, again, let's take everyone a step back. Jericho started getting an incredibly negative reaction from AEW fans, starting, I think, in New York when it came out that he went after Stephen P. New and said, I, never signed an NDA. And then it was brought up that how many people have signed NDAs because of him. And then that kind of shut Jericho up. But the fans remembered it, and he started getting booed. He started getting the please retire chants. And of course, it's moments like that that lead to reinvention. And more importantly, ways to convince Tony Khan that you can reinvent yourself with your bad ideas. And the problem with Chris Jericho is there's never someone to put him in check and say, no, Chris, this is all really bad. You're not good at this. You're not an ideas guy. You're a bad ideas guy, but you're not an ideas guy. And that leads us to this point where a play on, quite frankly, a play on what we make fun of here on the show. The thanks guys led to hi guys. I mean, it's really just a big, he's blowing a kiss to us with this whole thing.
He's blowing somebody else, though.
Unfortunately, it seemed like with this promo, maybe it's gotten to him a little bit.
Well, and here's the thing, and I know Uncle Dave, because he mentioned, Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter gave my ladder match with Mark Briscoe 4 stars. And then in this week's edition of the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Uncle Dave says that, well, Jericho then cut a promo directly to the naysayers, to the people who have criticized AEW and criticized him and said they wouldn't get this TV deal or that, because Jericho's out there saying, if you underestimated Chris Jericho, then you don't know how wrestling or television works. And so Dave has taken that as Jericho is out there defending AEW and what they've done and what he's done, and now Ring of Honor and blah, 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 because they're trying to shop around, or already have shopped around and believe they may have found a buyer for a Ring of Honor TV show with True TV, right? Which is one of the minions in the WBD canon, arsenal, whatever.
Yeah, Jericho's acting like he's still a demo god, or that he really helps the show or the ratings or anything. No, this is exactly where we thought he would end up, on True TV with 300,000 viewers.
Well, yes, that's the thing. While Uncle Dave is saying that Jericho is cutting a promo, sniping at all the naysayers who have criticized AEW, no, he's cutting a promo basically saying, you underestimated me being able to sucker this fucking billionaire into giving me my own show where I can be the world champion. I could be all over the fucking thing, and I don't have to interact with these fuckers over here anymore.
With all the people that don't want to work with him anymore. That's the other thing. It's not like the comments we had about Chris Jericho and his work over the last several years weren't heard by the locker room. He was able to sucker some guys in, that he was helping them, that he had advice for them. Who has come out for the better for that? No one. MJF had to get as far away from all that as he could. And now he's going to have a show, because who's going to work with him amongst the top people in AEW right now?
Well,
the Moxley group? No.
But here's the thing also, what they're saying is that, well, it was more important for Ring of Honor to have a name like Jericho as the world champion instead of Mark Briscoe or any of the other guys because of his name value. Well, yes, name value is important. We've talked about it. And 5 years ago, when Jericho was the only name there, he was pretty important at the start of the program. But now that we've seen him for 5 years, and he's 5 years older, and the whole idea of Ring of Honor is not to have a mid-50s champion that does bad fucking promos as a gimmick. And if you wanted a name, if you were just going to say, fuck the style of Ring of Honor, or the idea that Ring of Honor is for the younger talent, it's kind of like the cool underground record label vibe or whatever, then you've just signed Bobby Lashley. Why wouldn't you make Bobby Lashley the world champion of Ring of Honor if you wanted a name off of the other television to be strong, etc.? No, Jericho went to his, Tony, I'll get this thing over for you. So he's got his own show, his own bunch of stooges, his own world title, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants over there. Anyway.
You know, I mean, again, it all comes back to the same thing. Jericho found the biggest Jericho fan and has gotten away with murder for millions of dollars for several years now.
Chris Jericho is possibly the most successful hitman in history. He's been paid millions of dollars to kill a bunch of towns. Go ahead.
And the other thing is, he hurts everyone who gets involved. But Big Bill is actually one of the few exceptions so far. But, you know, you got to think Big Bill's just trying to get back to WWE. But with Ring of Honor, they have such a difficult time promoting and marketing AEW. So if this gets picked up on True TV, let's say, another Warner Brothers Discovery channel, or anywhere else, that means you would think they're going to start promoting, with Jericho as the world champion, they're going to start promoting the brand a whole lot more. That's going to create a little bit of confusion in the marketplace, isn't it? Jericho's the world champion. He's the world champion of AEW. No, that's a different world champion. Are they going to rebrand Ring of Honor AEW Ring of Honor? Like, how's it going to work? Or is it going to be like TNA to WWE? Or I guess that's not. Is it going to be like NXT to Ring of Honor? We don't know.
It's very confusing is what it's going to be. And they can't focus on anything to begin with. And they're going to have more stuff to talk about. So I just can't wait.
And Tony thinks these guys are his friends. That's the funniest thing.
Of course he does. They're his highly prized, highly priced, and highly paid friends. And speaking of some of the highest ones, they go to the back where Garcia snatches old Jungle Jack, throws him up against the wall at his custody. You can do something about this, and blah, blah, blah. And then Jungle Jack goes into the Buckaroo's locker room, and they are packing their shit and putting papers in the shredder, and say, "We got to go. We got to get out of here. We're leaving." And again, they can't do anything that's not funny and not believable. They can't do anything to get something over serious. That's why they're in the position they're in, because they think that people were just going to enjoy for 10 years them playing with themselves. And it got old. But they're shredding the papers and they're looking like they're bailing out before the goddamn feds come to file a search warrant or whatever. And we get out of that. And more on that in a minute. Or should we do more on it now? Let's keep it together.
Let's keep it together.
Well, I wish I could keep it together. So they have the next match, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then they go to the back again, and now the Buckaroos are bailing from the building. They're running to the parking lot like somebody's chasing them. And Chris Daniels tries to stop them and go, "No, we need you. We need you. Don't leave." And one of the little Buckaroos is like, "Well, this place is too chaotic. And we told you, but nobody would listen to us. And now I'm going to be working from home." And Daniels again, "We need you." But they drive off. But they've left Brandon Cutlet, who was coming with their box of shit and he had shredded stuff. And suddenly, as he's there, standing there like, "Don't
box
leave
of sneakers." No, you say box of shit. It was all
Was
sneakers.
that what it was? Sneakers and
just
shit.
Tons and tons
of
of sneakers. Yeah.
Yeah, just because they're children. That's the most important thing to them. I remember when I found other things to play with, I didn't worry about my tennis shoes when I was a kid. Anyway, Moxley and his band of merry misfits appear, and
Death Riders.
They slap the box of sneakers down, and now Daniel
prefer moccasins.
Hold on. God damn it.
Thank you.
Moccasins.
Try the veal.
So, Chris Daniels, an ex-pro wrestler, a member of management who, a while back, Tony Khan made his spokesman, right? Before they forgot about all that.
Well, he was made the spokesman after the Bucks and Jack Perry beat up Tony Khan.
Yes. Well, now Moxley just put his arm around Daniels and held him immobile like a small child, not exhibiting much effort to do it. And there was Daniels going, no, because Moxley's hand is over his mouth. And while he's holding Daniels, Marina Shafir puts, what's his name? Cutlet. Brandon Cutlet's hand on a forklift, and Claudio has a ball peen hammer. And Claudio picks the hammer up and hits the forklift beside the guy's hand. And the guy didn't sell it right away because it missed and he didn't realize. And then instead of jerking his hand back or even an instantaneous, oh shit, like when you drop something on your toe, oh shit, he went, ah. And then she had a chain around his wrist. She untied the little chain and he was selling his hand that, again, it missed by 6 inches.
Highly visible that it did. I mean, it's not like it missed and you had to go back and check. You went back and checked like, yeah, I think I just saw what I saw.
Yeah, well, and then also because the guy didn't know when to sell it because it never touched him. So
Claudio's not good with tools. He's better with books. I saw Casino this weekend, so I did the hammer scene.
I've heard the saying, a poor worker blames his tools, but I've never...
Now you're going to have to carry shoes with your left hand.
I mean, what in the world? Again, like, who gives a shit about the stooge of the EVPs that are heels and nobody gives a shit about them to begin with? And now we're going to... So in 2 weeks in a row, they've beaten up Chuck fucking Taylor, and now they had to go a ways, but they found the only person less important to the company or to the fans than Chuck Taylor, and they beat him up.
Well, again, too, they're the big heels in the tag team division, so big that the fans just don't want to watch when they're on TV, and they respectfully handed over the belts after losing babyface move. However, then we were told by commentary, by Excalibur, that they were shredding documents in the back.
No, we saw it. We saw it when they opened the door.
You know what? I didn't see it when they opened the door. I saw the sneakers and Cutler. I never saw the documents, but we were told over and over.
No, Cutler was feeding them in the fucking shredder. Well, in the first couple seconds of the scene.
So then they're shredding documents. That seems like a heel move.
And then running.
And then they flee. That's a heel move. But now their friend has been attacked with a hammer. A hammer that's so strong, it's like Thor's hammer. You don't even have to hit the body part. You have to be near it. You hit the pole next to it and the vibrations cause the injury. You got to figure they're going to come back and save their stooge. That's a babyface move.
Here's the thing. Even if they do come back to save their friends, so now they've established that those are the pussies that ran off when they were afraid of these guys, but their friend gets hurt, so now they're coming back to try to do something. Should I support them? Because they didn't want to help the company. They didn't want to help the fans. They just, whenever their friend got hurt, then they came back from running. Otherwise, they were content to be pussies up to that point. How does that gain support for a babyface?
And by the way, Christopher Daniels, I said it from the beginning, he's like a bootleg Adam Pierce. Adam Pierce has never been made to look as weak as Christopher Daniels has since almost the very beginning. And what's the point of him in that role?
Well, and again, to just hold him. Just like, here, little fellow, just stay there. So anyway, that was that. You want to go back to the match we skipped? The match that we are speaking of that we had skipped earlier was Camille versus Chris Statlander. And again, I thought, well, here's a chance we can evaluate Camille, and there wasn't anything the matter with the match, but boy, howdy did the booking get in the way. First of all, remember... Booking? Well, yeah, it was like they kind of just made it up as they went along, but the booking, if you can call it that, of this thing is completely, again, they've wardlowed Camille already. I'll not get ahead of myself. The point is, Statlander was from Alpha Centauri.
No.
Or Andromeda.
The Andromeda Galaxy, that's
yes.
Right, in Suffolk County.
And then she actually became a real person after she had a couple of injuries, as I recall. And of late, when we've had a chance to see her, she had kind of the jeans thing going on. She had a youngish type of look. She was a baby face. She's got good size. She can do shit. We're like, why don't they do something with her instead of this fucking Mercedes Moon? And now she came out and she looks like she moved back to outer space. And the gimmick is, it's a complete departure. And all these people show up. There used to be a rule in the WWF, you couldn't get a fucking tattoo without office approval. You couldn't get a new set of tights made that was radically different from anything you've been wearing without approval, because all your publicity, your pictures, the way you're being written for, your gimmick, you don't just get to, oh, fuck it, I'm going to be a ballet dancer this week. But now she's back to tights. She's got face paint on. It looked outlawed. It looked like she's trying to be from outer space again. Suddenly, for no reason, no explanation. So they had a match. They were serious. They were fairly stiff. It was a big girl match. Who's the most powerful? Camille hit a great leg lariat. You know, the old David Schultz thing. She jumped up, stuck her leg out, and sat on the fucking guy. Or on the girl, I should say. Well, Schultz usually did it to a guy. Nevertheless. And then they went back and forth a little bit. And then Camille went for a tombstone, and Statlander reversed it and tombstoned her. 1, 2, 3. They beat Camille. I was like, what the fuck? And Shivani's like, oh my God, this is a big upset. Camille was 5-0. Big fucking deal. She just got there. They beat her already? It's...
Well, you had to know they were going to beat her when they were using her as a setup for the Mercedes Moné match for Statlander.
That's the exact problem. Is Mercedes is attached to this, and the only way, I think it's safe to say, you can't disagree that for the money that they have paid, especially if what we are told is even remotely true, that Mercedes Moon has been the biggest bomb, in the biggest turkey, as Jackie Gleason would say, we laid an egg with that one, that there's ever been. But now they bring Camille in. They could have gotten heat on Mercedes with Camille. If Camille is established as the Diesel, the bodyguard, or Big Bubba, instead of Big Bubba Rogers, she's Big Bubba Gump. Is she? It's already over. Camille.
But she's got great shrimp.
Well, yeah, and you know what? She's standing next to the shrimp, Mercedes. But Camille could have won this with Mercedes reaching in and goddamn doing something and interfering, and Camille gets a win. But the heat still goes to Mercedes and Statlander, but nobody wants to see Mercedes do any fucking thing or wrestle anybody. But if they were going to try to put some heat on her, then Camille could have propped her up. But now they're beating, and then she beats Camille to Statlander, and then Mercedes knocks Statlander out from behind with one shot with a belt. She's going to lay there for the next 2 minutes. Mercedes gets the microphone and yells at Camille, "Get to the back now!" Like a whipped puppy. And then Mercedes says, if you want something done right, do it yourself. She's already burying the bodyguard. And then to do something herself, she pulled Statlander's head up, showed her the belt, and then dropped it. And then the music played, and she stood there doing nothing, which is what she's good at. But again, Camille 5-0. Well, goddamn, until she was 25 or 30-0, then they shouldn't have a goddamn match with her and somebody they don't want her to beat. Do you have any idea how many and guys and girls used to be in the wrestling business when they brought them in and put them on television to get them over?
No, and again, they're doing some of the things now that you would see maybe with like a Shawn and Diesel after a couple of years. They've been together for weeks.
Yes.
And they're already doing all these things. Diesel didn't lose for a long time. Diesel wasn't just losing matches to set up people for Shawn right away.
Or China.
So it's ridiculous that, I mean, they took all whatever Camille was supposed to bring, they kind of took all of that away because of the way they've booked her. So now she's just a big girl standing there at Mercedes. She's not a threat. She can lose matches. And yes. Statlander was as big as she was.
And Mercedes...
After Queen Aminata, it's 2 weeks in a row they put Camille in there with women that were as big, if not taller than her.
And also, Mercedes is not even particularly confident in her now, telling her off. So, and remember I said then the job girls have been pushing her around. So that was a chance to make something out of Mercedes, because if she wasn't coming off as such an entitled bitch that actually believes she's over, I would feel embarrassed for her at how over she's not. But, my God, and she's got nothing but problems, Mercedes. For all that money she got paid from Tony, did you hear about her financial issues?
I don't have any idea what you're talking about, no.
She overdrew her account at the sperm bank. Anyway, so we're going to move on now.
That's a good idea.
So
That's a really good idea. Let's move on from the sperm bank. What's next on the show, Jim?
Well, boy, I'll tell you what, some testosterone, thankfully. We got the main event with Swerve Strickland with Prince Nana against Shelton Benjamin with MVP. And this was not only one of the better Swerve matches I've seen, but the only thing actually worth watching on this television program. And again, except I'm not happy about the timing of the booking with what they did with the finish here. And they do actual rotten finishes, not in terms of who's winning or losing, but how it happens. But it appears for most of this that once again, Shelton and MVP are agenting, producing their own stuff here, because this was a wrestling match followed by a wrestling angle, which is out of place on this show, and it was perpetrated by grown adult men. And Swerve, as I predicted, was kept away from his worst instincts, and his leaping and athletics and etc. didn't get too fancy for the sake of being cute, but instead was a response to a more physical guy that was dominating him. So he had to use his speed and his inventiveness. And that's when this shit works. And I mean, again, Shelton, he out-wrestles the guy, so Swerve has to be a little quicker. And Shelton gives him a belly-to-belly over the top rope to the floor, but Swerve gets an arm lock and scissors it around the ring post. And when Shelton opens up and starts manhandling Swerve, finally, he'll get hope spots, Swerve will, from underneath, but then he'll get suplexed on his ass again. And then 10 o'clock came. They were almost in break. They came back from the break right at 10 o'clock. Of course, they're going overtime. And again, I don't know why they're putting the best thing on the show at the end of the show where the fewest people will see it, but nevertheless, that's what they did. When Swerve made his comeback, did you notice that he didn't have the people with his comeback? Do you know why?
Well, I actually thought they had a problem getting the people into the match, or at least getting them to make noise throughout the whole match, but why? Here.
Well, if anybody wants to go back and look at it, when Swerve finally opened up with his comeback, I mean, he hit a kind of a missile drop kick off the fucking top rope to the back of Shelton's head, and he did some other stuff. But what he does is not a good babyface comeback. It's a good series of moves to do in the match. But a babyface comeback needs momentum. It needs him to be cooking. It needs to kick it into high gear. This is where the heel becomes a ping pong ball and starts bumping. And everything that Swerve did, he was doing a fancy move, but it took a little bit to set it up. Like he's got to do something to Shelton where Shelton is sitting there, and then Swerve has to run to the buckle and then jump off and hit him with an elbow in the back of the head. But Swerve is taking the big bumps. Everything he did in the comeback either took a couple of seconds to set up or gave Shelton no bump to take. So, because the babyface was doing the pretty stuff. In the comeback, the ideal babyface comeback is he stands in the middle of the ring and the heel feeds him. And the heel bumps the fuck out of, off of him. And the momentum. I see guys, when they'll make a tag and they'll punch a guy 2 or 3 times to back him up into the ropes, and they'll shoot him off, and the guy will reverse it and shoot the baby face off, and they'll duck and do bullshit. You're wasting fucking time. When a baby face gets a tag in a tag match or just starts a comeback because the heel has missed something, the people want to see him cook. They want to see him punch the guy in the face and him take a bump. Punch him in the face, he takes another bump. Now back him up, shoot him off, hit him with a fucking drop kick. He takes another bump. Or give him a body slam. He takes another. Bump this motherfucker and do it ba-bing, 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 and then hit him with a big one. The guy can sell. The baby face can fire up the people. And then you go into your false finishes. But this is inside the ring and outside the ring and this fancy thing, and there was no momentum and there wasn't a heel bumping. And then Swerve tried to get, at first I thought he was trying to get a full Nelson on and Shelton was fighting it. But then it looked like that he was trying to get some kind of abdominal stretch and couldn't figure it out. And then it just looked like that Shelton was looking behind him like, are you going to put a hold on me or what? And finally, none of these things transpired. Shelton double wrist locked him and took him down and had the double wrist lock, but then Shelton was on the bottom and Shelton had him float over and get a 2 count. And he had him float over. Shelton stuck his own leg in the middle of Swerve's legs and kicked it up a little bit, like, come over here, to get him to cover him. And then Shelton took over again. So I don't know whether Swerve was trying to put a hold on that he didn't know what the fuck, but anyway, thankfully, Shelton is an experienced professional. And then they went back and forth and they hit the big moves. And then suddenly, Swerve got a sit-down power bomb, did the double stomp off the top rope, cover 1, 2, 3. Again, seriously. I know they're setting up what we're about to talk about, but not even a manager spot to give Shelton an out. What about if MVP had come up the goddamn bullshit over something and Nana fucking got on him and Shelton went over to fucking save his goddamn manager, boom, and nails Nana and then turns around and gets the fucking boot or whatever. But again, all they do is flat finishes. I'm sorry, at this point it was too soon to beat Shelton. He's just got there. But they're trying to set up the introduction that they're about to do. But you can still figure a finish to give the guy an out so that you've not damaged your one commodity to introduce your next commodity. And I've never seen so many people, baby faces and heels, just get beaten with no outs, no bitches, no gripes, no slip ups, no making a mistake or no capitalizing on a mistake. They just do moves until somebody wins with one. And that's a rotten way to do finishes. The fuck?
Especially to someone you just brought in.
Especially somebody you just brought in that's looked better than everybody else on the roster. So anyway, the point is 1, 2, 3, Swerve wins, and MVP gets on the phone at ringside. I'm not saying there's a payphone at ringside. I mean, he gets on his phone, but he's at ringside. And suddenly, as he's talking, the lights go out, and there's a big pop from the people. And then the lights come back on again. And come to find out it was an accident. And the fucking crowd went, "Whoa!" Pretty. And when the lights came back on again, you know, that now everybody's standing around, and then suddenly music starts playing. Most of the lights go out again. Then the lights go out again, but there's still a light over the ring because it's Bobby Lashley. And the production crew got their fucking I's dotted and their T's crossed in the wrong fashion. But now here came Lashley, and he got a big pop. But I'm thinking, who did MVP call on the phone? Did he call the light guy or the sound guy? Think about that. How did he call? If it's one thing for Paul Heyman to call Roman Reigns on his cell phone when Roman ain't there to report on the shit that's going on, right? But did he call Bobby Lashley, who's standing at Gorilla, said, okay, MVP says it's time to play my music. No, turn the lights back on, the music first. What's going on back there?
Yeah, where was Lashley was he near a monitor? Because, he got out there pretty quickly, all things considered.
Well, yes. And that's what So anyway, if MVP had been for weeks calling somebody on the phone, all right, nevertheless, they have ideas and they just go, oh, let's do that. But nevertheless, Lashley comes to the ring, gives MVP a big hug, has a face-off with Swerve. The people chant, holy shit. Remember, didn't somebody say, oh, they don't want Lashley, he's too WWE or whatever the fuck. They like any name that shows up.
No, they treated him like a star, those fans.
And then when Shelton popped up on the apron of the ring and diverted Swerve's attention, Lashley clotheslined him and started kicking the shit out of Swerve. And finally, MVP stopped Prince Nana. He hit him with the cane and then put the cane around his neck and was choking him with it. Because remember, before they've just let Nana stand there with his dick in his hand, doing nothing. And MVP was too smart for that. So they held MVP down, and then Shelton gave him a super kick or whatever. And Lashley chokeslammed Swerve and put the hurt lock on him. And here comes the referees and the security, but the heels were doing the King of the Hill the right way. The manager's got a blunt instrument he's hitting people with. And while Lashley's on Swerve, Shelton is kicking the security guys and top roping them. It was chaos. The baby faces were in jeopardy. The heel group, in a believable way, kicked the shit out of everybody. And there was momentum to it. And then MVP takes the microphone, and all he has to say as he's standing there with Shelton and Lashley is, guess who's back in business? And the people cheered like crazy. Because this is something. This is men doing wrestling. It was better than Moxley's bunch, 8 weeks of TV in one fucking segment.
Well, the other thing, too, is people forget that right when WWE started getting really hot again, the Hurt Business was still on top. Lashley was still one of the world champions. Right when things started to, bubble up.
Yeah.
And everything with the Bloodline took off. That's why for so long we wanted Bloodline versus Hurt Business. And it never really happened. And I think the fans treated them like they were the stars. one of the things, it was pretty quiet so you could hear stuff. The AEW, great job of miking the audience as always.
Yeah, you could hear a mouse pissing on cotton in that building that empty.
Botchamania, I think it was, put up a video where, they played that and you could hear the referees as they're running out, just like running out. 90 seconds! 30 seconds!
Well, it doesn't help when they're screaming 90 seconds! And one of the guys in the ring says, "What'd you say?" And the guy in the third row said, "He said 90 seconds."
No, the fans have treated them like, especially here, treated them like main event stars, and that's exactly what you want. Don't fuck it up. It's going to be weird with them coexisting as badasses while Moxley's driving around town or whatever he's doing with his little gang, hanging out by the gas station. What do you think Moxley and them do when they're not at the arena? Hang out over by the 7-Eleven and get some soda? What do you think they're doing?
Maybe playing skee ball. And again, as you mentioned earlier in the program, why would Tony Khan have to call the Jackson boys, those little delicate little things who just ran like cowards, or Jungle Jack, who is the most effete, bearded man I've ever seen, and their broken down Japanese paraplegic friend?
Oh, you're forgetting the big friend. That's who it's going to be. It's going to be led by Kenny Omega.
Oh, I forgot. And gutless Kenny.
No, he has guts. They fixed his guts.
They put his guts back in.
I think so, right? They don't remove his gut. They didn't remove anything. They just fixed it up.
They took him and set him out to the side. It's like when you're doing one of those recipes where it says mix these ingredients, set to the side.
It's like one of those brain surgeries I read about in the Observer.
Yeah, they take the brain out and they set it aside. But why would you need to call those? I will give Kenny his credit. He's the only one of the bunch that looks like he could whip any grown adult man, professional athlete or otherwise. But why would you call them when you just say, "Hey, MVP, Lashley, Shelton, can you go stretch these stupid motherfuckers for me?"
Miro, I'll let you out of your contract. Just take out these men. That's what he should do. He should call in Miro and Wardlow and Hobbs, all the big scary guys, and be like, "Look, whoever takes out Moxley gets out of their contract at once." And then it becomes like a mad race every week. Who's going to take out Moxley? Meanwhile, they're all fighting each other because they're trying to get to Moxley.
You're saying it's a wrestling version of It's a Mad, 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 Mad World.
Yes, it's a King of the Mountain where the winner gets to leave.
Boy, in that case, there'd be some goddamn people stabbing each other in the guts fucking take over from that.
You know what? We got vehicles. We got people running around wrestling. The locker room's always dangerous. I think it could really be something. But that was Dynamite.
Yeah, and that was something.
And lots of people listen to lots of something, whether it's music, whether it's podcasts, whether it's audiobooks, whether it's just more music. And if you need to listen to something, and you do, we all need something, a little something in our lives. You can get that.
A little something, something.
You can hear that something, something. You can hear that. Yes. With Raycon.
Just say the word. Something in the way he listens when he puts those earbuds in his ear. Something in the way he plays the music that you don't want to hear.
What?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying.
Are you talking about me?
Yes, I'm trying to rhyme you out of playing that music. Folks, if you want to hear music played by professionals or podcasts done by professionals, you can even hear our podcast on these things. The Raycon Everyday Wireless Earbuds are what you want. And I'll tell you what, you've heard about the Black Friday, you've heard about the Cyber Monday. As we said before, we've even heard about Dog Walk Wednesday, but now every day of the week is discount day at Raycon, because if you have not heard, they are offering up to 30% off everything on the site. Up to 30% off, depending on what it is. Some may be more, some may be less. All of it is significant. And they already start at just half the price of the other guys' everyday earbuds. So, yeah, you know, the other guys, they make these earbuds. You can only wear them on Sunday, in your Sunday go-to-meeting clothes. because they're so expensive you can't afford to wear them 6 days of the week. You'll wear them out quicker. But the everyday Raycon earbuds, they start at half the price, so you can wear them every daggum day. What's the worst thing that can happen? Let's say you're wearing your Raycon everyday wireless earbuds when you get run over in a street by a bread truck. Now, a lot of other people would say, well, goddamn, that means my Raycon investment is blown. I'm not going to be able to leave these Raycons to a member of my family because they've been run over by a truck. But you will be relieved to know, ladies and gentlemen, that studies have shown if you get run over by a truck while wearing the Raycon everyday earbuds, there's at least a 60% chance these things are still going to work. You have a family member or the coroner take them out of the ears of the particular empty vessel that used to wear them, and you send them to the kid, and the kids put them in their ears, and they work just as good as before they were run over by the truck. And
first of all, there's no stat about any of this. Let's just make sure we say that.
Some kids say that you could even hear the dead person talking to you in the Raycon every day.
No, that's certainly not how Raycon works. This is not any kind of way that you can connect with the afterlife. But with Bluetooth, you can connect with all sorts of music players and all sorts of players. Play your favorite things wherever you go. You just want to play and play and play and listen and have a great time with Raycon. And there are no statistics about bread trucks running over anyone.
Well,
there's no reason to even bring it up.
It doesn't have to be a bread truck. It's just a 6,000-pound weight limit. But nevertheless, is that the multi-point connectivity that allows you to connect not only to other devices, but also across the river Styx to the other world? Because it says multi-points. So anyway, folks, if you'd like to hear from Aunt Fanny, she's been gone for 25 years, but you take the Raycons down to the cemetery and just walk in circles 3 times over Aunt Fanny's grave while you're doing the multi-point connectivity.
Listen,
and she'll be glad to tell you off.
Unless Aunt Fanny was buried with a router, you probably ain't going to hear from her on your Bluetooth with your Raycon, but you can listen to all your favorite tunes.
How do you know what Aunt Fanny was or was not buried with? As a matter of fact, the Diddlator Mach 3 was her favorite household appliance.
Okay, well, that diddlates. That doesn't give off some kind of signal with verbal cues.
Well, you could connect to it. That way you could hear Aunt Fammy.
What could you hear her say?
If you connect with it at the exact moment of her demise, you could hear her come and go at the same time. But anyway... Folks, Raycon's everyday earbuds are also available in a variety of vibrant colors, so you don't have to just have the standard issue white or black, because things are not black and white anymore, folks. It's shades of gray. But I don't think they have shades of gray, because if you have gray skin, well, you might better go back and see Aunt Fanny. You might need to lay down next to her. Folks, right now, it's time to save big. Go to buyraycon.com/JCE today to get up to 30% off of these fine items and implements site-wide. Up to 30% off. Buyraycon.com/JCE and talk to Aunt Fanny again. She sure would love to hear from you.
Once again, whether it's Fanny or Fammy, forget about all that. Don't forget about the good sounds and needing good sounds with Raycon. Buyraycon.com/JCE.
That was a great sitcom, Aunt Fanny's Family.
Jim, let's get away from Aunt Fanny and let's get to Tony Khan's family. AEW Dynamite, the ratings, October 30th, a Wednesday night as always.
I'm waiting to hear the reveal here. I know nothing so far about the numbers.
On TBS, 8 to 10, 11 p.m. Strong competition, the World Series on Fox, of course, and basketball. And also there was news.
There was news that day? Shit, most days go by without any news.
And we all focus so much on the different TV shows that are causing the AEW rating not to go up or to continue to go down. What about the written word? What about the quality and the quantity of books that have come out just this year alone? about a number of subjects. So I think AEW...
That's true. We don't even talk enough about that people could be just deciding to read a good book.
Well, let's find out what happened on this Wednesday night, October 30th. 8 to 10:11 p.m. On average, AEW was watched by 628,000 viewers.
Ooh, for Fright Night. And they were scared when they saw the ratings. That's down from last week, what, 20,000, somewhere in that ballpark?
Last week, according to WrestleNomics, was 637,000, so this is down 1%, and it's also 3% off the trailing 4-week average of 650.
Well, their average does trail quite often. Where did we start and where did we finish, oh guru of ratings?
And just for the record, too, according to WrestleTix, the final numbers for AEW Dynamite Fight Night at the Wallstein Center at CSU, Cleveland, Ohio. 3,681 tickets distributed.
Holy shit!
Last time in the area was September 9th, 2023 for Collision at the Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse. 3,181 tickets. So
they were up 500 in number of tickets distributed.
That's right.
You think that means they learned their lesson last time and they gave 500 more away this time?
Well, let's go now to the quarter.
And by the way, at least they got out of Iowa. Did you hear Cedar Rapids Saturday night for Collision? 1,600 people. Well, actually, 1,600 tickets. It's not a guarantee everybody showed up.
Why do they keep going back to Iowa? It seems like they go there a lot, doesn't it?
I think they're hoping for Frank Gotch to turn things around when they sign him next week.
Well, let's go now to the quarter-hour breakdown. This was compiled by WrestleNomics. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. A recap video, the Orange Cassidy live promo, the Mercedes Moné backstage promo, and the start of Adam Cole versus Buddy Matthews. 708,000 viewers.
Ooh, okay. So the big bangers had other things to do this week. They didn't come out in numbers.
And again, the World Series game would have started around 8 o'clock. Quarter 2, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m. The continuation of Cole versus Matthews. The post-match with Malachi Black. Christopher Daniels and Private Party backstage promo. 647,000 viewers.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Right. Well, there went 61,000 people after they got finished looking at pockets. But the good news here is mathematically they can't plummet off a precipice because they wouldn't be able to make their average. So this is going to be kind of a slow drip, right?
Well, that's one of the good things if you want to look at it that way. That's one of the good things about losing their audience, is that now the dips are never as big as they would have been in the past because there are less people to chase off.
So you're saying that it's better to not have people to begin with and lose them than never to have had them at all.
Now they can only impress people with a big number, like 700,000. If you go the other way, every time the ratings come out, you're like, ooh, let's see what it is this week. Oh, no. Yeah. Look what it is. Let's go to quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. An ad break. Adam Cole's backstage promo. The Kyle Fletcher confrontation with Mark Davis on the ramp. The Hangman Adam Page backstage promo. And an ad break. 651,000 viewers.
So they gained 4,000 back, effectively margin of error, I guess.
We go now to quarter 4, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The Jon Moxley live promo and angle with the Blackpool well, I guess they're not that anymore, but with them, Orange Cassidy, the Dark Order, Action Andretti, Leo Rush, Private Party, Darby
Forgot
Allin.
about him. He was out there.
Just think of everyone's size as I say them here again.
Yeah.
Orange Cassidy, Dark Order, minus the girth of Evil Uno. Action Andretti, Leo Rush, Private Party, Darby Allin, the Young Bucks. Well, the Young Bucks are next, but Young Bucks versus Private Party also. 649,000 viewers.
And they lost 2 of the 4 they got. And Well, they might pick some up at the top of the hour because you usually do that, or because the Buckaroos are in the ring, they might lose more. It's a toss-up.
Well, we go now to the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The continuation of the Young Bucks versus Private Party with picture-in-picture, 590,000 viewers.
Oh, good Lord. They lost 59,000 people as soon as it became obvious that the Buckaroos were going to be in action.
The Death Riders rode off with the ratings. We now go to quarter 6, 9:15 and 9:30 p.m., the continuation of the Bucks versus Private Party, the post-match, the Jamie Hayter-Penelope Ford backstage angle, an ad break, the Learning Tree ramp promo, and a Mariah May backstage promo. 594,000 viewers.
And same thing, fluctuation, 4,000 people.
We go now to quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Jack Perry Daniel Garcia Elite backstage angle, Camille versus Chris Statlander with picture-in-picture and full-screen ads, the post-match with Mercedes Moné, the Patriarchy's backstage promo, and an ad break. 603,000 viewers.
They said 9,000 that staggered back in after the Buckaroos were off the screen.
Jim, we go now to quarter 8. I remind you, we have an 11-minute overrun.
How could I forget?
Quarter 8, 9:45 to 10 p.m. The Conglomerations backstage promo, the Elite Christopher Daniels Blackpool Combat Club backstage angle, and the start of Shelton Benjamin versus Swerve Strickland with picture-in-picture. 595,000 viewers.
And they were right back down to where they were the quarter before they went up above 600 again.
11-minute overrun, 10 to 10:11 p.m. Continuation of Benjamin versus Strickland post-match with MVP. And the debut of Bobby Lashley, 615,000 viewers.
Well, so they actually picked 20 back up at the end. The overruns have been dying even further. So at least, hold on, the Bucks obviously had the lowest rated quarter hour of the program. That was right in the middle of the show at the 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5. And everything else in the second hour stayed between 590 and 603 until the overrun at least bumped up to 615. So the angle introducing Lashley was seen more than anything else in the second hour, but still, it wasn't a lot of people compared to where they started from. So they didn't wait because they didn't want to sit through all that shit.
Hey, I saw something. Let me see if I can pull this up. I think I saw it on Brandon Thurston's Twitter. Okay, here it is. According to WrestleNomics, the Lashley face-to-face with Swerve from Dynamite surpassed 1 million views on AEW's YouTube within 24 hours. 2 other AEW YouTube videos this year reached 1 million views within 7 days. The debut of Mercedes Moné and the highlights of Adam Copeland versus Christian I Quit match. So 2 matches, right? In 2023, 9 of AEW's YouTube videos reached 1 million views within 7 days, including Darby Allin dethroning the king of television in his hometown, CM Punk returns, Ric Flair in AEW, Sting, Adam Copeland, the usual names you would imagine of stars. So that was, 2 this year, 9 last year. 2022, there were 32 videos.
Jesus!
And he has a whole big list here of all the videos. So if you're going based on YouTube, because for anyone who says people consume wrestling in different ways, their YouTube numbers are not what they used to be. But this performed well there. It's because Lashley is a star. He's been presented like a star. Now they could just mess it up.
Yeah, the question is, who's he going to work with on that roster where it's not just ridiculous? But that was them there.
That was them there.